People can pick it up. Definitely, people can sense if you're being fake in this manner. If you're, even though you might be going through a thing, you're trying to, you're asking questions, you're listening to people, and you're kind of showing that you care. People can tell if you're not genuinely invested in growing and learning from others and listening. It comes across. It comes across in the way a person's demeanour is. Right, welcome to the CrossFit by Design podcast. This is episode 8. How are you, Brendan?
I'm well. How are you, Tom?
Very fine on this day.
Cool.
Okay, so today the topic is humility, and there's probably a bit of a different twist on the podcast that we would normally do. And the reason we wanted to talk about this is it's probably something we've picked up in kind of the current culture and the fitness industry. And so I think it's worth talking about. So humility, what is it? Why is it important? How would you start off this conversation?
Yeah, the best definition I ever heard of humility is content with your own nature.
Mm-hmm. And
I really liked that.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to think of all these elaborate ways to explain it, and I was coming up with all this stuff, and I heard that in a TED Talk, and it's part of a poem.
Okay.
And it was just brilliant. Like working in harmony within yourself and your own environment, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's genuinely being content with your own nature.
Yep.
I really liked that as a definition. So not having to feel like you've got to prove anything in any given situation.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. So why do you reckon this is important? And we've talked about this a lot, but why do you think this conversation is important now, particularly at this point in time, with just the way the fitness culture is going?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important because it's where growth is. Mm-hmm. And the fitness cultures, everyone seems to be taking on, us included, which is good, a more holistic approach, I guess you'd call it. So not just worrying about the fitness aspect or the fitness side of things, and sort of trying to encompass as much of the, I guess, mental side of things as we possibly can.
Yep. And
whether that be growing relationships or anything, or just improving within yourself and your own attitude towards things.
Yep.
And I think it's come up again and again, and we've had this conversation, is now it's like the cool thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that it's worth talking about.
Yeah, definitely. And it seems that most people know kind of what your ego is, and there could be two sides of that coin. Your ego could be seen as a good thing. You need to have a bit of ego, and then there's also a negative side of that. And whilst I do think there is an upside to pride, having pride in yourself and having some form of an ego, I do think it's easy to fall into the negative side of having an ego in most cases. And so you touched on it before, not thinking too big of yourself. It seems that the classical, when you get a big ego, or if you're not being humble, it's that you think you're kind of top notch, and you think that you're the one who's responsible for everything that you're doing, and you've got the right way, and you're not willing to accept that maybe you haven't got the answers and that maybe you are wrong, and being willing to accept the input of other people in kind of the situation that we're going through.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And it's it's important because it's where growth is. So I think that's why people are adopting it without it's the cool thing, and people accept that that's where the growth is for whatever they're chasing. If I'm humble, then I'm going to be better. So I'm humble.
Yeah.
I'm the most humble.
Yeah.
And it's fixed mindset and growth mindset.
Yeah.
So if you've got that growth mindset, you have to be humble, like accepting the fact that you don't know much, bro. You have a long way to go. You got a lot to learn. Whereas the fixed mindset is like what you mentioned before. I'm good. I know everything. This is the way I've always done it. This is what works. I'm the man.
Yeah.
And it's people. It's these days. People accept that growth mindset is a good thing.
Yeah.
And that being humble is a part of that. So they're like, I'm humble. But it has to be genuine, otherwise it doesn't work.
And I think that's a good point, because the fitness industry is very good at identifying, from a scientific point of view, what is going to improve us holistically, whether it's fitness, nutrition, whatever it is, mental. we're very good at identifying, okay, what is going to move the needle, what's going to improve us. And most people can clearly see that, okay, being humble and being able to expand our mindsets by saying, okay, I don't have all the answers, and so I need to be looking, what do you think and how can that work? And actually giving that a go and not thinking that I know everything. People identify that, but it's not as simple as that, because it requires something of yourself, requires you to sacrifice your desires in a sense and put that on hold and admit that, well, my progress is probably going to come mostly from the input of others around me, not necessarily just from myself. And so there's definitely an aspect of you have to give up a little bit of your own self in order to progress, and that would be how we would define humility in a sense. And that's not always easy, and I guess, as you said, what we see is people adopting this, I want to be humble, but they're not actually living it out. It's a bit of a false humility where they're living it in word, but not actually in deed. They're not actually doing it, but they're applying the title of humility to themselves without actually being humble.
Yeah, and then I'll completely agree. Have you read How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Yes.
Yeah, so the best part about that book is it explains like, hey, this isn't some cheat sheet for you to manipulate people. You actually have to care if you want to win friends and influence people. That's the only way it's going to work. Same here. It's like everybody can give you the tools. I'm sure people have done podcasts on this before, and this is how you do this, and you need to accept this if you want to go further. And you're like, yeah, cool, that's me. That's
go through
me.
the tick, 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 tick. Oh, why isn't it working?
Yeah, exactly. Like you genuinely have to, like you said, kind of sacrifice a little piece of yourself and just, to check that ego. It's tough, man. Like it's really tough. And an easy example is, and we've talked about this previously, if you're in a group, you're having a conversation and something comes up, not necessarily an argument, but more an opinion on something. And you know in your heart of hearts that is incorrect. The best thing you can do to practice a little bit of humility is to, maybe you don't agree with them, but you just don't say anything. And or you maybe hear them out on their point of view.
And it might not even be a disagreement. It might be something that you think, oh, no, I think there's a better way of doing that.
That's a great example. Yeah, absolutely. Or you've tried it, you've tried what they've said, found a better way from somewhere else, gone through this journey of being humble and come out on the other end. That doesn't mean that you have the right to be like, no, that's not how it's done. Trust me, I'm humble. I went through this journey. It's like, no, you need to check yourself, listen to what they have to say, and see it through their lens. And that's not an easy thing to do.
And people can pick it up. Definitely, people can sense if you're being fake in this manner. If you're, even though you might be going through a thing, you're trying to, you're asking questions, you're listening to people, and you're kind of showing that you care. People can tell if you're not genuinely invested in growing and learning from others and listening. It comes across. It comes across in the way a person's demeanor is, and I think from a gym and a business perspective, that really impacts, because people aren't dumb. People have got BS radars that they can pick up when you're not being genuine.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's what to add to that? That's great. Yeah, absolutely. Like I completely agree, and it's just got to be that. It's a tough thing to do, man. But if you're in the right crowd, because no one's gonna. It's a good thing to do. No one's going to call you out and be like, "Oh, Tom, you don't know anything," And that kind of person, I don't want to hang out with that kind of person. And it's
probably even the reverse. You might think that if you show, what in your eyes might be perceived as weakness by, accepting another person's advice or, giving another person's idea a go and taking that on board. Whereas you might think that's weakness. It's actually the opposite in the person's eyes that you're dealing with, because they'll see you as like, wow, he actually listened to an idea and he doesn't think he's got it all sorted out. Like, oh, I'll follow him. And that's, which I'm sure you've found that to be the case as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Like Jocko Willink has excellent examples on this, and he talks about having that kind of attitude in leadership. And I was lucky enough to see that firsthand in my military career. It's like you've been serving within a platoon for a number of years, and then you have a lieutenant that comes in and they're kind of fresh out of school. So they've come in and they've learned all the lessons in theory, whereas you and all your platoon have just come off 2-3 deployments. They come in, this is how it's going to be, they run it like a dictatorship. I'm the boss, this is what's going down. And what you'll find is the men just do not respect him. And it's the guy that comes in and goes, hey guys, I got an idea about how we're going to do things. What do you think? And then that kind of gives you the opportunity to go, well, actually, we tried it that way, and then this actually works a lot better. And they're like, oh, okay, sweet, we'll do that. And what we found, and same with what Jocko Willink found, is they get a hell of a lot more respect than the guy who comes in and just tells you how it's going to be.
Yep.
And it's like that fear, it's just, like you said, it's completely wrong. Like, oh, I need to come in and act like I know everything, otherwise I won't be respected.
Yeah.
Now, the opposite is true. And it does seem counterintuitive, but it's spot on.
Yeah.
Because if I feel like I've been listened to, or I have been listened to, then yeah, obviously I'm going to respect that guy more than somebody who comes in and just says, nah, mate, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, because most people tend to, they're so busy worrying about what other people think of themselves, they don't actually spend time to think about how they view others. And if they took time to how you view other people, you're like, well, when he lets me do what I want, I don't think less of him. So why would that be the case for me? Because we're so focused on ourselves if we just look at other ego.
Yeah, you just need to take a step back.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, we're so good at just nailing this stuff. I reckon we're the most humble people ever.
Humble.
Yeah. If you want to know about humility, come speak to us. Definitely.
Great place to end it, I think.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thanks,
right, that's your line, sorry.